amongst many, many memorable shifts. I'm going to give you a couple. I was working for the World Winter Games of the Special Olympics. Extreme honor to do that. And we had just had an incredible incident where we, the security staff, prevented the kidnapping of a young athlete with Down syndrome. A man walked right into the change room, took her by the hand, and started walking off the property. And I can tell you, I am extremely proud of my staff. That potentially is the proudest I have been, with exception of one shift. I've been prouder of my staff. And we got her back without her parents ever even knowing she was gone. They were absolutely astounded. And frankly, best security ever. The police arrived en masse. I'm going to refrain from describing what happened. Cops really don't like child abusers. Uh, Anybody with humanity dislikes them. And we were more than happy to hand him over to the police at that point, and just simply take her back to be reunited with her parents. That was the proudest I've been of my staff. After that shift was one of the times that I have decided we were going to do a team building exercise, and usually those do not involve alcohol. However, we repaired to a local bar, which was down on the waterfront in Toronto. And I said, tabs on me, drink up. And absolutely at that point, and nobody said no. We all came in and we all just enjoyed each other's company and rehashed the incident, and took that time to feel really proud. But an interesting event occurred. We were sitting out, looking out the front of the bar, and unbeknownst to us, they were filming a movie at what we knew to be Ontario Provincial Police Headquarters, down on the lakeshore in Toronto. And the movie was called The Long Kiss Goodnight. Samuel Jackson, and I apologize, I forget the name of the female lead. Oh, Gina Davis. And we were looking out the front of this bar and having enjoyed a couple of alcoholic beverages. We're very, very relaxed when all of a sudden the front of the building that we knew as Ontario Police Headquarters blew up. It's absolutely towering 6-7-story fireball. And we are just sitting there in this little bar, just astonished. And we all looked at each other and thought, okay, I guess God's not done messing with us today. And we all, as one, every one of them at the same time, rose, kicked back their chairs, and headed for the exit. Because we thought, oh boy, not one of them chickened out. Not one of them sat back down, and I would have been just fine had they not followed me out that door. That would have been the smart thing to do. Stay in your freaking seat and let the fire department handle it. But we were going over there to see how we could help. Now, we got about half a block away, and all of a sudden, all these people with headsets started descending on us, going, where do you guys think you're going? And we're like, we just saw OPP headquarters blow up. Where the heck do you think we're going? And they said, we're filming a movie. And we looked around at each other, and you could see everybody just sag with relief. There's no shame in saying we were glad we didn't have to do any heroic stuff, because what most heroes have in common is they're dead. Self-preservation is a perfectly honorable feeling. It's the most human response ever. But super proud of them already. And then every one of them rose at once from their chairs and headed out the door towards that fireball. And we didn't know what was going on. Could this be a terrorist attack or what, So if you research The Long Kiss Goodnight, you'll find that was filmed back in the 1990s. And I am, again, dating myself a bit. Some of the people who I worked with on that shift have gone on to careers in the RCMP. Two of them are now working for, or were working for, at last reporting for CSIS, which is the Canadian equivalent of the CIA. CSIS will get annoyed at me for saying that, but some of them have gone on to great careers in the private sector security industry. It really was a bunch of us just working. What some people would say, like, isn't that kind of thing watching a door beneath you? No, there's no job beneath a true professional. Any chance you get to help people, to serve people, to be in a position where maybe you might make a difference. And boy, did we make a difference that shift. But there's one that I think not beats that, but works right alongside of it for sheer professionalism and the pride I had in my team. And we were detailed to work the G20 protests that were in Toronto. And I remember arriving for my shift the night before, and it was going to be a long shift. We were working in 18 hours rotatings, and we were being put up in hotels downtown. And all of downtown Toronto had been turned into an armed fortress with armed cops with riot vests and helmets and automatic weapons, which is something you don't see in Canada, you know. And I remember thinking, wow, these cops are nervous. Their body language, they were shifting around, they were watching everywhere, they're looking up at the tops of buildings, and I thought, holy crap, these people are serious. And I didn't mean the cops, I meant whoever the cops were nervous about. If you see an elephant getting nervous, you should probably back away from the elephant because something big is really coming. And Toronto police, although thoroughly professional, are not scared of much with good reason. By the time we got through that first day, quite often there was smoke filtering into our building that we were protecting. There was a total absence of police for a couple of hours at one point because I discovered later they were dealing with a breach of the barriers that they'd put up everywhere. It was like being in an armed prison camp. It was unbelievable. The feeling of fear that, we can't leave this place. If we walk out of here and we're in a uniform, we're going to get torn to shreds. And at one point, I guess the barriers failed someplace down by Roy Thompson Hall. And there were protesters by the hundreds running through the streets, knocking stuff over. And it was contained really, really quickly. It didn't get far. There was just suddenly a whole double line of riot cops just moving down King Street, containing them, forcing them into designated areas and, containing them and making sure that they couldn't do any further harm. But at one point, a Molotov cocktail, which is a wine bottle with a scrap of fabric stuffed in the neck filled with gasoline or another not explosive, but flammable substance, and lit. And I'm not sure what the substance was, but it didn't explode. And it bounced off and cracked the glass, so it was thrown pretty hard. So in terms of the most memorable shift I've had, that most definitely was it. That was one where I think maybe I didn't really consciously think about what I signed up for. I still would have gone, even if I had known. But to see humans behaving in an inhuman manner like that and realize that those people walk amongst us and that they had a real hatred for me just because of the job I'm doing. Some people will say, well, how can you be discriminated against given my demographics, et cetera? And I told them, first off, you don't know anything about me. But secondly, I have been the object of rage, hatred, and violence because I simply dared to want to protect somebody and protect the business they've built up. Now, whatever you think about businesses and large corporations, et cetera, maybe we can discuss that over a beer one day. But as long as you don't bring a wine bottle into the conversation, I think I'll probably be okay. Going home, you could still smell the smoke. The police had cleared everything up. There was just this eerie silence in a city that, if you walk around Toronto, it puts a buzz in your ears at all times. Anytime you're within earshot of downtown or midtown, even, there's never an absence of noise. And I have heard farms that were noisier at that point, and absolutely unbelievable. Now, I have not been in combat, but I have heard descriptions of the aftermath of combat, and they talk about that silence. And if it's anything like that, I am just astounded at soldiers because I did it for one day. I mean, realistically, I was there for 3 days, but the actual riots only happened on one day. And the professionalism of the cops, and they were doing their best too. They weren't running around clubbing people over the head with their batons. They were using them as defensive sticks, and they were really trying hard to protect the paramedics who came in waves behind them. And they were really exhibiting concern for people. They were trying to talk to people who they had kettled against a wall, etc. Um, and not all cops. There's always a little of column A and column B in every job, right? And some of them were expressing their frustrations very vociferously and physically. But the majority of police I saw that day were really trying to protect those who were attacking them. And I think that's probably the definition of honorable right there. So you say, why do you do the job? Um, Sometimes it's been the paycheck, sometimes not. I've made some pretty good money, but it is the memory and it's the people that I got to work with that really made it memorable.